People don't realize this right now, but the truth is this. The Chinese government knows there is a competition going on between two different countries. It's not just for car manufacturing. It's for one very important technology called full self-driving. The Chinese are fostering developments. They're fostering Chinese companies trying to develop their full self-driving in China. In the US, you have General Motors, Waymo, and Tesla. And then you have the NHTSA and the media. There's a constant war being waged by the media and the government against the efforts of full self-driving in the US. And this is giving a huge lead and a heads up to China. People don't realize the Volkswagen Group went to China to save them from their software woes, their disaster in software. They didn't go to the US, they went to China. Now, if the US isn't careful, it will lose this war. And I mean, it is a very important war. This market is potentially worth trillions of dollars, and they know it. All in the space of 24 hours, it looks like General Motors and Tesla are showing two different ways of making autonomous vehicles happen, showing us the future. But at the same time, things are, not going so well. Why? Well, there's two different ways of doing things, but both of them have their challenges. There's no easy way to make an autonomous car and to make it work, but they are the future. And I think it's worth having a look to see who's going to win this future. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking and my name is Sam Evans. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Thank you to our Patrons. Really appreciate everything you do. If you want to be a Patron, I'll put a link in the description below. First, Ray Kurzweil, the futurist. I originally named the channel, this YouTube channel, The Electric Singularity. The reason being, the singularity is near. Ray Kurzweil predicted the future. Part of that future that he predicted is autonomous vehicles. Now, of course, he also predicts that our minds will fuse with AI, making us super geniuses. And clearly, Elon Musk is sort of traveling down that path in terms of his company called Neuralink. Now, the idea of Neuralink is to essentially help people who are disabled by implanting a chip in their brains, but it's a similar kind of thing. It gives them almost superhuman ability. So cars, will they ever have superhuman ability? Well, realistically, autonomous cars, for them to fully work without having to have their maps updated every single day or to be geofenced, they need a level of artificial intelligence, which we haven't quite reached yet. Will we get there? I think we will. But to have truly autonomous cars, we need artificial intelligence. And, cars, they really need to have neural networks. At least that's what Ray Kurzweil and many other experts believe. Now, today, Tesla has just found out is facing its 40th NHTSA investigation regarding its autonomous driving systems. You're probably getting sick of hearing these stories. I mean, it's 40th. Besides its electric vehicles, Tesla is focusing enormously on making their cars be able to drive themselves. And the systems are slowly improving with time. However, the NHTSA special crash investigation was spurred following a Tesla vehicle colliding with a high schooler getting off their school bus in North Carolina. This was despite the school bus stopping and displaying its stop signs and lights. The student was hit by the Tesla, which failed to stop. So the North Carolina State Police have charged the 51-year-old driver. Now, at this point, the NHTSA is unsure whether the Tesla autopilot system was engaged at the time of the accident or if the driver had decided not to stop, hence the agency's current investigation. Neither Tesla nor Elon Musk has responded to the recent investigation announcement or the school bus accident, though Tesla has been consistent with its messages in the past. Even when autopilot systems are engaged on the vehicle, drivers must remain attentive and in control of the vehicle should the vehicle make a mistake or act irrationally. Now, in this case, the car wasn't driving using full self-driving. I don't believe it even has full self-driving capacity. So this is just a reference to Tesla's autopilot system. It's probably a bit of an unfair thing for NHTSA to do because the reality is every car now has an autopilot system. You can do this with your car. Many basic cheap cars now have an autopilot system where this could happen to any of these vehicles. And so really, ultimately, it's the driver's responsibility here. And Tesla clearly states that autopilot is not full self-driving, and even full self-driving needs to be monitored in order to prevent this from potentially happening. So we're not there yet with automation. I mean, in particular with autopilot, which has never been claimed to be Tesla's full self-driving system. It's a totally different thing. Now, obviously, the media constantly conflate the two together and just make the assumption that autopilot is full self-driving is autopilot, put them in the same basket, which is disingenuous, and it's an intentional tactic by the media who know this, but obviously they know that if you click, they make money. Now, the NHTSA, in my opinion, is intentionally causing harm to Tesla here. I don't really know why they're doing this. In my opinion, the fair thing to do here is to find out whether or not the driver had engaged full self-driving, or the answer was no, because it doesn't have full self-driving, but then whether or not he had engaged autopilot before you actually charge Tesla publicly. Find out first if the driver was simply driving the car himself, and then it would simply be his fault. We don't know yet. That's the point. This sort of information doesn't need to be made public until we actually know for sure. Regardless, whilst this was happening, Elon Musk flew to China to meet with Chinese officials about full self-driving in China. Now, there's a various number of Chinese car companies working on full self-driving, and it appears as though the Chinese government is kind of not so anti full self-driving versus the American government. They're really more supporting it. XPeng, they're working on full self-driving. So are a range of other companies in China. And there isn't this kind of sensational media narrative every time there's any kind of accident which is, involved in a certain model of car, where they instantly say, well, it must be the fault of full self-driving, which it appears is what the media has begun to do. Now, Tesla's presence in China apparently is rumored to be about full self-driving. According to a report from Bloomberg, Musk is meeting, along with Tesla executive Tom Zhu, with officials in Shanghai, and they're potentially stopping at Gigafactory Shanghai. Now, apparently, Musk plans also to meet with Chinese Premier, in other words, the most powerful man in China, about trying to pursue Tesla working on and actually being allowed to use full self-driving in China. Now, right now, there's a bit of controversy around it. The Chinese government is concerned that Tesla's cameras can pick up sensitive information in China. They don't want that information being shared with their rival, the US government, that sort of thing. So, a little bit controversial, and more controversy as well. General Motors, as you know, General Motors uses a very different type of full self-driving system. Theirs is similar to Waymo or Google Alphabet, and it uses mapping. So it needs mapping systems, but it works very, very well as long as the cars stay within the mapped area. Now, these mapped areas have to be mapped daily because changes are made to the roads, and if those changes aren't made to the mapping system on the car, then the car won't know what to do. But actually, they can work really well. So, for example, if you have these kinds of cars in a dense, small city, then it's potentially a solution, at least a solution in the short term. Clearly, Waymo and General Motors believe that is the best solution. Tesla is following a different path by having an automated driving system, which is like a child. It can learn, it constantly learns over time, it learns. And then this child, or this neural network, learns more and more information about all the different things with the road, and it kind of becomes like a version of AI, and it can adapt and change and have the kind of ability to interpret what's going on, which is very different to General Motors and Waymo's system, which relies on high definition mapping. Now, Cruise does have some cars that work very, very well most of the time. They have had a few incidents recently though. GM's self-driving taxi unit, Cruise, has recalled its fleet of vehicles following a viral crash with a bus earlier this week. Now, I should point out that GM's Cruise vehicles use what's called level 3 autonomous taxis. And generally they do work very well. The crazy thing about this is that many automakers are saying they'll have level 3 automation in their cars this year. Mercedes, BMW, truthfully, it's not even remotely close to level 3 because they say it's conditional level 3, which can be used as level 3 about 5% of the time you're on the roads, which is ridiculous. That's not what level 3 was intended as being. So technically, no, it's not actually level 3, but GM's Cruise definitely does use level 3 driving. Now, Cruise was forced to introduce a fleet-wide over-the-air update and recall to fix an issue that have made them go viral. Reuters said the Cruise robotaxi has gained so much notoriety over the past week after it collided with a bus in San Francisco, injuring nobody, but causing some damage to the cruise vehicle. To ensure this doesn't happen again, Cruise issued an OTA update, stating that the vehicle had incorrectly predicted the movement of the bus in front of it. This can happen. I mean, lots of people do this every day, but the point is that these vehicles should be safer than a person. The details of the crash were outlined in a blog post from Cruise's CEO Kyle Voigt. According to Voigt, the bus had driven in front of the Cruise vehicle roughly 1 block earlier, and the taxi followed the bus, continuing its pre-existing route. The robo-taxi made an error when the bus stopped abruptly, which resulted in the autonomous vehicle colliding into the back of it at roughly 10 miles an hour. So yeah, it was going pretty slow. It wasn't really anything major involved. The recall, though, issued by the company affects all 300 of its vehicles, and according to the CEO, it will ensure that this rare situation doesn't ever happen again, which would be impressive if they were able to guarantee that. Fender benders like this rarely happen to our vehicles, said the CEO, but this incident was unique. We do not expect our vehicles to run to the back of a city bus under any conditions, so even a single incident like this was worthy of immediate and careful study. I think that was a pretty good response. That was pretty measured, right? The CEO said this occurrence is rare, with the last time it happening being in early 2022. Nonetheless, he said that this is only more reason to double down on safety and improve the product, which they're continually doing. The process we followed in this case is just one example of our commitment to safety and our ability to rapidly diagnose, react to, and remedy any issues we may encounter. Continuous improvements are likely to make voluntary recalls commonplace, though. Voluntary recalls commonplace. I think it's worth considering that. There will never ever be a situation in society where vehicles don't crash into each other ever. It doesn't matter how good they are, at some point they will actually hit each other, or at least for the next 100 years. But in 2021 alone, 43,000 people died in road crashes in the United States. 43,000 people in a single year in one country. There's going to be lots of little challenges like this along the way, but it's important for us not to get sidetracked. Ultimately, automated driving is much safer for many people. There's many people that really should not be driving. How many 80-year-olds, 85-year-olds, 90-year-olds do you see on the roads who shouldn't be driving? It happens all the time. How many times do people drive a car when they're drunk because there's no other real choice, or because it's just way too expensive for them to get a taxi to go a long distance? Well, they think it is. Happens all the time. And how many people own a car because they only use it once or twice a week? But if they could have access to an autonomous vehicle like this, they might not ever need to own a car. Well, car ownership will continue to decline as it has been over the last 2 years. Worldwide, but it will continue at a much faster rate. And once many more vehicles have this automated driving technology, even if it isn't perfect, there'll be a lot less deaths. It's really time for the media to stop this sensationalism of autonomous driving, because ultimately it may save your life. That's the truth. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Bye-bye.